Afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. As Robert said, my name is Caitlin Silly Turco. I'm with the Northeast AmeriCorps Regional Office, and I do apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather today, so we'll just grin and bear and we'll make it through. But delighted to be here to talk to you about your benefits.
I will get the screen sharing going. I apologize.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And if that is good. Is that good? Let's see.
Yes, I believe that is good. Perfect. All right. So great. So we'll start off with the basics. We'll start off with the living allowance. This is your, to cover your basic needs such as housing, food, or utilities. It's going to be paid to you every 2 weeks via direct deposit. The AmeriCorps office used to do checks, but ever since COVID, they've decided that route doesn't make sense for them. It'll depend on where you're serving as to what your living allowance amount is, because the poverty guidelines are a little bit different in each state and each county within each state. So your living allowance is unfortunately taxable. The federal taxes are withheld, but the state and local taxes are not. VISTA members are responsible for understanding and paying those state and local taxes. Usually this is done at the end of the year when you go into tax season. But the nice thing about the VISTA living allowance is it's not a paycheck. It doesn't qualify. It doesn't. Oh, sorry. Pardon me. I lost my train of thought there for a second. And so it's not. So if you're getting assistance of any other sort, it's not going to count against that particular assistance stream. And the last point here, it doesn't qualify VISTA members to collect unemployment compensation after service, because it's not technically a living wage or a payment. And it looks like Robert's put in a couple of great income tax resources on the side. I assume this is going to be shared afterwards so that all VISTA members will have access to these, correct? Perfect. Great. If we can advance to the next slide. Perfect. So, I know that when you started, there were two different end of service options that you had available to you, the education award or a cash stipend. So depending on what you chose, will depend on how the end of service benefit works for you. But the education award will always be equal to the amount of the federal Pell Grant of the year that you're enrolled, not the year that you end service. So if you started in fiscal year 22, then you would have a different education award amount versus someone who started in fiscal year 23. The education award can be used to pay for tuition or college expenses at Title IV schools, or you can choose to repay your loans that are outstanding. Sometimes, and under very specific circumstances, the education award can be transferred to a family member. This is a very new benefit for VISTA. So VISTA members can access part or all of the education award for up to 7 years after you complete your term of service. So just to be wary, whenever you use a portion or the whole of your Pell Grant, it is taxable income. So it may or may not push you into a different tax bracket, depending on where you fall after service. So it's always good to just kind of look at that in the whole of your year and understand the tax implications of utilizing your education award. You can only receive up to 2 full-time awards within your lifetime. And if you choose to exit service early, unfortunately, whatever portion is not used is forfeited at the end of that term. All right, and if you select the education award, the VISTA member can switch to the stipend before the end of their 10th month of service. So in case you decide, oh, I really didn't want to do this, I'm going to switch to the other one. But it does not work the other way around. So for the stipend, it's an $1,800 cash stipend, which were paid in the last 2 living allowances. You can use that however you want. But like I said, if it's the stipend selected at the start of the service, you can't switch to the education award afterwards. It's only the education award to the stipend. And obviously, make sure you know and understand that some taxes are deducted when the payment's made for the stipend, just like it will be for your living allowance. um, Perfect. So next up is everybody's favorite leave. This is the fun one. When you start your service, you get 10 personal and 10 sick days automatically accounted to you. Should you need to have any extended medical leave, you would just want to talk with your VISTA leader, who would then talk with the project director about getting you potentially up to 5 extra days of medical service. Usually it requires you to have written approval, and it does require some sort of documentation. So just be aware of that when you go to ask for it. Um, we can't exclude you from going to jury duty. I don't know why that was so difficult to say. But it's something that you could just let your manager know. If anybody needs it, there's also parental leave. But for birth or adoption, you're going to want to use all of the allotted time first. Um, our office may be able to approve an additional 10 days. So you might be able to get 30 days if it's required by your medical professional. There are also 5 additional emergency days. These are pretty specific to, you can't physically go to your site, or you can't serve because of, national power outages or something of that nature. Or, if you have a family, like an immediate family member who ends up becoming critically ill or passes away, or you need to care for them. Again, it's something you talk to your host site supervisor and your VISTA leader, who can then talk with the project director about getting you the time and assistance that you need. And then, military, if you're a military member on, one of the National Guards or the reserves, or you're an active duty personnel, we're going to honor that, and we're going to work with you to let you successfully serve both of your obligations. And I'm sorry if there's anything in the chat and I'm going too fast, please let me know. I know I talk very, very fast, but feel free to interrupt me with any questions if they're relevant for the page that they're on. I see there's something in the chat. So let me see. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Perfect. We want to move to beautiful. Thank you. So this is considering student loan forbearance versus deferment, because there are 2 separate types of deferring for active student loans. So forbearance is in regards to the education award, while deferment is with the stipend. But forbearance is when, your loan is still continuing to accrue interest. But once you complete your year of service, the federal government will pay for any interest that was accrued while you were serving. These payments are considered income, so you just want to make sure that you understand the tax implications that are, originally paid for from the National Trust. And then if you go to create a loan forbearance in the AmeriCorps portal, they're going to ask you for a reason. Your reason is national service, so you would put it in that box. On the other hand, deferment for only subsidized loans, the accrued interest will be automatically paid by the U.S. Department of Interest if the loan's deferred. It's up to your lender as to whether they will defer your loans during your year of service. So you may want to talk to them about that first if you're considering it. And you can do these at any point in time during your term of service. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I missed the boat by not doing it at the very beginning. For deferment, you're going to want to make sure you obtain your forms from the lender and have them filled out completely and signed. And then when you go to make your request, you're going to put in economic hardship as your reason for deferment. And cancellation of the member's Perkin loans may be an option, but again, talk to your lender first, because they're going to know the ins and outs of your particular loan. Perfect. And so for healthcare, there's the allowance plan and the health benefit plan. And so the main difference between the two of these is that, the health allowance plan, you already have a health insurance policy in place, and you're going to use this as supplemental health insurance. Um, it helps to pay for like your co-pays, deductibles, or co-insurance um, that you would normally owe for your bill. And the nice thing about this one is that it does include those pre-existing conditions. So you would be able to bring in a pre-existing condition and utilize your health allowance plan benefits for this. So anything like, I'm hesitant to say what exactly it will take just because it's been many years since I've done it and I would not want to speak out on behalf of it. So, but you can contact IMG Global directly and ask them what they cover and what they don't. So on the other hand, health benefit plan is for those with no other forms of insurance, so people who are currently uninsured. There's no deductibles or co-insurance. This basically is your health plan while you're serving, and it will cover you the full term that you serve. It has a couple different co-pays for doctor's visits and emergency room visits because we want you to be able to serve successfully and be able to stay healthy and safe while doing so. One thing to watch out for with that is that it doesn't allow for pre-existing conditions. So again, if you're interested, I would just talk to IMG Global and just ask them directly. Excuse me for just a moment while you flip through to the next. Okay, apologies for that. Had a little bit of a coughing fit. And so you should have all received this when you started enrollment. Usually comes from IMG Global directly. They'll send you something that tells you the different benefits plans and gives you a get started link. You can also utilize this particular link and get everything that you need from there. It should be able to have I believe it has a frequently asked questions section. It has all the steps on how to sign up. It has the requirements and things of that nature. Um, like it says here, you can search for medical providers that use this insurance throughout the United States. And there is the 60-day, enrollment window after you either start or before you end service. So definitely worth taking a look. You can also choose to decline, in which case you don't have to have this insurance as well. So completely up to you if you want or need it. I'll throw in an antidote. When I served back in 2017 to 18, I ended up using it to get my wisdom teeth out. So it covered it fully. So you never know what some of these things are going to cover. So it's always worth asking. So this one's a little more specialized. This is for VISTA members who have children age 13 or under that need childcare in order to be able to serve. So for this one, you would just want to talk about, or you'd want to figure out if your childcare provider is licensed through the state. You would want to make sure that you don't have any additional childcare benefits currently for your child because you won't be able to double them up. In order to qualify, you have to be within the certain income guideline brackets, and you're going to have to submit an application for it. It doesn't take too long. You just want to have all of your information ready to go. Let's see. Make sure that I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I don't think so. Just understanding, what the income guidelines are for your state is helpful, especially if you might have a choice between state or the AmeriCorps child care benefit. It's worth looking at both and seeing which one might be a better benefit to you. All right, so some of you might have used this to relocate because there are travel and relocation assistance benefits for you. If you go more than 50 miles as the crow flies, then from your home to serve at a different site, you can potentially get relocation travel assistance and settling in allowance. These are just to help you transition and move into your new area and be able to not have to worry about having that down payment ready. But this travel allowance will be, from your home zip code to your new zip code. And so they will project it that way. It doesn't matter what type of mode of transportation you use. They're just going to figure it out based on the mileage and give you a flat fee. So the allowance for settling in is $750, and it's automatically rolled into your living allowance once you do the relocation allowance form. So once that's in and that's been approved, then you will get that into your next check. And federal taxes are withheld at the time of payments. You don't have to worry about those. Transportation expenses, transportation expenses that you incur while performing your normal day-to-day activities can be reimbursed. Usually it's the sponsoring organization that will assist with those. So please ask your VISTA leader or your project director as to what that looks like for you and your situation. I will say that AmeriCorps will do emergency travel if something should happen, like having a critically ill family member or a death in the family, things of that nature. It's something you would just want to talk with your VISTA leader or your project director about before booking any flights. AmeriCorps can assist you with those bookings, but talk to them first. And then professional development. So these are the resources that AmeriCorps offers. Hunger Free America may offer you additional professional development resources. So just ask your VISTA leader. They're great. They're a great source of information for you. So everybody went through the VISTA member VMO or VISTA member orientation, aka the VMO. This is a set of trainings that are developed to help you orientate to the VISTA project. They are coupled with the on-site orientation and training that is performed by Hunger Free America. These are the ones that you do hands-on at your sites each and every day. They should have a set schedule for you to kind of get used to the organization, get used to the community that you're going to be serving in, get used to your coworkers and your position there. AmeriCorps does do a monthly webinar series that are developed specifically for VISTAs, and they tackle a lot of the day-to-day overarching ideas that VISTA entails. So these might be things like, understanding and working your VAD or capacity building in a large nonprofit, things of that nature. There are some self-paced courses and tutorials available on the VISTA campus. You can also check out the VISTA Member Handbook, Chapter 4, and the VISTA Campus, obviously. I really can't stress enough how fantastic the VISTA Campus is and how much information is there as you're starting off. It's a really great resource. One other fantastic thing about AmeriCorps VISTA specifically, and the Peace Corps, they also do this, is the non-competitive eligibility status. So if you're interested in working for the federal government, it kind of puts you into a separate pool of candidates that get picked from before the general public. And it will last for 1 year after you enter service. So I highly recommend checking it out and utilizing it when you're getting close to the end of your service to see if there's anything in the federal government that you would want to go through. And if you're interested, it's usajobs.gov. So that is where all the government jobs are at the end of the day. They're all compiled there. There's also the alumni network, which there's statewide, and then there's also a national alumni network that you can become part of. And then if you do decide to work for the government, you can count your VISTA service experience towards federal leave and retirement. If you come and work for the federal government, you could say, hey, I spent 2 years as a VISTA member. I'd like to count those towards my federal retirement, which will push you ahead in getting seniority and getting additional benefits from the government. You just have to do a very simple form and submit it to, and pay the back dues and submit it to the HR department. It's a great added benefit. And I think this is where I hand it back to Robert.
All right. Thanks, Caitlin. That was great. So any quick questions before we move on to the in-kind donation section? You can just unmute your mic if you'd like. Well, Amy, do you want me to stop? Are you gonna share your screen?
Just why don't we keep rolling with yours since you've got it up and going.
All right, that sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. So I will
Well,
pass.
thanks, Caitlin. Thanks so much for spending the time with us and for the overview of benefits. And just a shout out to Robert. Thanks so much for putting together this thoughtful presentation. This is based on some feedback. So he whipped together the deck and got us all organized and literally on the same page. So thanks so much for all you did to put the training together. So my name's Amy Bond. I am your program director, and I am also a VISTA alum. So I can speak to the fact that you should absolutely consider that state taxes are not taken out of your VISTA stipend, and that can come as a surprise. So be sure to factor that into your calculations. We are doing in-kind donations because this is something we've noticed on your reports that we don't see too often. People aren't logging in that they've received any in-kind donations. So we thought we'd just do a quick overview on what's an in-kind donation, how you track it, and how you should be reporting it. And it will bring in big bucks to your organization, which is great if you're not already doing so. So next slide, please. So what is an in-kind donation? Pretty straightforward. It's just anything that isn't cash that's given to your organization. So it's goods, services, times, and expertise. And we'll talk a little bit about the expertise thing at the end. And you can receive these from businesses, you can receive these from individuals, can all make in-kind donations. And as an anti-hunger group, as you'll see in the graphic, you get tons with food. So we should be logging large numbers of in-kind donations. All right, next slide, please. So why are they important? Well, reporting. For one thing, we need to tell AmeriCorps, we need to tell Caitlin on a regular basis why we're doing what we're doing and what a great job you're all doing. In-kind donations are an excellent way of leveraging more money for grants. So you can say, hey, we got $5,000 worth of food. Would you give us a grant for $2,000 to pay for volunteer training so that we can do our food distribution program? So that's it's a really great way to leverage dollars. And it's a great way if you have in-kind donations coming in from a grocery store, then you can go to the other grocery store in town saying, hey, look what we're getting from this person. How about, or this organization, how about if you can match that? As I said, in-kind donations are a pretty impressive tally for anti-hunger groups. It tells the complete story. You know, as a VISTA, you're out there asking for donations and asking for help all the time. And in-kind donations are a great way of making all those requests tangible and documented. And in-kind donations are a real inspiration. Like I said, with the grocery store, that's a great example of, hey, this grocery store is giving us, $10,000 in donations. How about if you to give us that? and individuals too. People can see that they can give more than cash. A lot of times people say, well, I don't have the kind of budget. I'm not in a position to give any money, but they can give time, they can give their talent. And we'll talk about tracking both of those at the end. So any questions so far on what an in-kind donation is? All right, well, we're going to give some examples and we'll keep going. Feel free to stop me or throw a question into the chat. So straightforward, tangible versus intangible. The tangible are the, the things, the physical goods that you can get, and it's pretty straightforward, and you can track it on a fair market value. So it's food and furniture, vehicles, you'll see the list. Personal care items are probably another one that you probably see a lot of in your day-to-day work. The intangibles get to be a little bit more interesting to track, but that's if somebody's donating their talent. So if it's a marketing person, if somebody's volunteering at your at a food pantry, if they donated space for you to run a training, if you have people providing serving as mentors to some of your volunteers. A patent donation. I've never had one of those, but I'm fascinated. I saw it on the list and I'm going to put it on there because I'm still waiting for somebody to come through with a patent donation. But translation services are another one. That's a huge one. I know it's a big one for HFA, and I'm assuming it probably is in your work as well. So we've got the tangible, that's the physical stuff, and the intangible. You can count them both. All right, let's go on to the next one. So there are some pros and cons. It sounds really good when you start adding up all that food and all those donated goods. It can be a great thing, but it can also be a challenge. Sometimes unsolicited goods can be really challenging when somebody is cleaning out their house and they're like, I'm going to donate all of this to your organization. And they pull up in a U-Haul and you're like, what, I don't have space for it. I don't know if I have the need for it. So you want to be really clear on what you're accepting in-kind donations for and what doesn't. Like, I remember working for an organization and somebody donated a car and it wound up being just the biggest hassle with the, it needed to be fixed up in order to be used or resold and the title. And in the end, it wound up being more effort than it was worth. So not all gifts are something that you're going to want to take, and you're going to want to reflect on that. So again, like the real estate and the vehicles, you really want to have somebody who can help you navigate that before you say yes. So before you say yes to some things, make that hesitation and vet it with your organization. The pros are, of course, in-kind donations help get you where you need to be. Like you can get beautiful event space, you can get beautiful food for a training. You can get things donated to do a great fundraiser. These are all really wonderful, helpful, critical things for your organization, and they are a really common thing that's asked on a VISTA VAD. All right, next slide, please. All right, so how do you value it? Well, it's kind of super easy. For the most part, you let whoever's donating the goods, they are responsible for assessing the value of an in-kind donation. So you can write a receipt of what it is, the value of it, and how they decide to work with that on their taxes is their responsibility. For an intangible donation of services of time and talent, you'll want to check out the independent sector. We've got links for all of these that we'll send after the training. But you can value your volunteers' time at $31.80 an hour, which is huge. And that adds up really quickly. And again, when you start thinking about grants and you start leveraging all that time that you have volunteers donating, it adds up really, really quickly. If you want to get more specific, some states might be a little higher and you might want to try for the higher rate. We'll be sending out the state-by-state guide as well. But again, valuing, one volunteer training where you've got volunteers, 10 volunteers, that can be, $300 to $600, which is great. And donors are 3 times more likely to give if they're acknowledged for the contributions. So it's really important, just because it's not a cash gift, you're still recognizing that donation. So we're going to send you a link of some really nice ways and affordable ways, actually free ways, to recognize those donations. But that's the critical piece, like accept the donation, acknowledge it, and then recognize it with a thank you. All right, next slide, please. So here's what we're asking you to do, because we have 0 on our in-kind donations right now, and we think we can send that number through the roof. This should look kind of familiar. This is your monthly report. You'll see on page 5, total dollars, estimated value of in-kind donations. So that's where we want you to log it. You'll also be able to log in the time and talent, the time of the volunteers. So the number of volunteers that you worked with and the number of hours. So that is what we would super love for you to do. If you haven't logged anything in yet from your service year, anything past June 2023 can still be logged. We can still count that. So feel free to put that into your next report. If you have any questions about it, reach out to your VISTA leader, or you can certainly reach out to me about how to calculate it. And then if you're looking at a receipt, we're going to send a link for that. And if your organization isn't tracking it, there's a free system right here. My guess is they probably are, and you'll want to coordinate and reach out to your supervisor and say, hey, I just learned about this in-kind donation thing. What do you want me to do, and how do you want me to calculate it? And how do you want me to report it to HFA? And how do you want to make sure that I'm reporting it internally? Cool. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we thought we would just take a couple of minutes that we've got left for you to exercise your in-kind donation knowledge now. So we're going to break you into a couple, maybe like 3 small groups. Robert, does that sound good? We're going to ask you to do these 2 questions. So the questions, you won't be able to access this in the small group, so maybe just jot these down. But what kind of in-kind donations does your project generate? And what kind of in-kind donations do you think you could? So what you're already doing that you could collect, and then what you might be able to go out and reach out to donors to support. We're going to break you into groups of like 3 or so. We're going to give you about 5 minutes to brainstorm on that, and then we'll come back and have each of the groups report back out. So make sure you pick somebody within your group who wants to be your spokesperson for in-kind donations. Any questions on the activity before we break you into groups? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to send you through the magical Harry Potter port key here into your small groups, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.
We have 2 groups of 3 and a group of 4 in room 3.
Awesome. Hang in there, guys. You're going, you're going.
Oh.
Great. Should we pause the recording just while they're in the small groups?
Yeah, let's see. I'm recording.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good conversation. I'll take notes, but if maybe the group in room 1, if you are interested in sharing your thoughts on in-kind donations that you could be collecting and in-kind donations that you are collecting.
Sure, I'm the spokesperson for room 1. Right now, a lot of the organizations are receiving home goods, groceries, books, clothing. We are a little bit different because we're the actual gardens producing the food. So I know Madison Area Food Pantry Gardens will get weeding materials, water from fire departments when we had a big drought, mulch, and certainly huge volunteer hours for us. That's a lot of our in-kind. Donations we could think about asking for. I know one organization in our group has a DoorDash program and they could really use some more funding for that. And one had an idea for a farm stand at their site where they could accept food donations maybe from other farms or grocery stores. It's kind of a come and take area at their site. So that's kind of the overview of our group.
That's great. Those are great. I love the farm stand idea. That's awesome.
Mm,
It's kind of like the lending libraries that you see all around, but just for food. That's cool.
yeah.
All right, room 3. How about you?
I'll defer to Victoria because she seemed to have the most going on.
Mm-hmm.
Or Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Victoria, she may be having a tech glitch right now. It looks like she's frozen. So would anybody else from that group maybe want to share? Or we try and get her back online?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was on. Maybe I was gonna. I'll share what kind donations that we're receiving right now, and then maybe Tiff can let you know about ours really quickly. But just an in-kind donation that I've received recently was from a volunteer from Humana that I have coming out to our food bank to kind of just get people informed about the Medicaid Advantage plans and things like that. And then I know they have open enrollment right now. I believe it might be closing soon, if it hasn't already. But he has donated things like small things like bags for people to take food home, and also has offered grocery carts because we have a grocery cart system where each person that comes in fills up with food and fills up the whole grocery cart. So sometimes those go missing and we tend to need some. So they have a ton of great resources, Humana. So it was a really great kind of opportunity to get some extra resources. And then we're always going to clothes and things like assignment. It's free. It's like a Goodwill, but it's free for everyone, and it's on Wednesdays. So today they have it going on actually right now. And then when people come and donate, oftentimes they come in also asking if they can come and volunteer, which is cool. So I'm working on other things to be kind of other opportunities for donations. It's just with my job with working with health clinics, it's a little difficult to set up those kind of in-kind donation opportunities, but there will be more.
Those are really great suggestions. And I think Victoria hit on a really good point that look to your allied groups, the pharmaceutical group. Like if you're working in a healthcare clinic, there are groups that have funding to buy like the swag that you might want to give out. So stuff like bags
Yes,
and carts.
we've all
Yep.
yes, we've actually all gotten refrigerators recently, the health clinics. So I guess that would be considered an in-kind donation, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
They're
Looking
beautiful.
forward to
So
reading your report.
excited.
Yeah.
But Tiffany, if you want to talk about maybe what you want.
Sure. I had mentioned that we have a mandatory reading. Like there was a book that was recommended to me when I first joined my nonprofit, And I just asked the local library if they could procure a copy so that people don't have to buy it. And another thing is, so like having like a shared book club or a book club with your staff might be fun. And having a copy available for everyone. And another thing is for holiday volunteer appreciation, we're sending greeting cards and gifts to some of our volunteers. And one thing I was thinking would be a great in-kind donation is like a restaurant gift card so that the volunteer feels recognized and appreciated and has some extra spending money. And there are so many local restaurants that we can ask. So I think I'm going to go ahead and see if anyone wants to offer anything for the holidays, like a raffle item.
Oh, that's great. Hey, Tiffany, what's the book that you all read?
It's called let me see, Reinventing Food Pantries. And oh, Reinventing Food Banks and Pantries.
Great.
Hmm.
Well, excellent ideas. This is, Tiffany just touched on it. It's a big time of year for in-kind donations. It's also a great time of year to ask groups for donations, especially to recognize your hardworking volunteers. Does anybody else have any other suggestions or questions or big ideas when it comes to in-kind donations? Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time with us this afternoon. If you have any questions about it, by all means, reach out. If a book club is of interest to you, I know there are at least 2 people on the call here that have talked about it and would be really interested in it. So if that's something you're interested in, drop your name in the chat and we'll follow up. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day and just reach out if you need anything. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Before everyone hangs up the call, I'm just gonna send out in the chat our Google evaluation form, and it's just really helpful for us to get feedback from you guys about the presentation. So if you all want to take a couple minutes, it's a short survey, but really appreciate hearing back from you guys. So it's in the link there. And just thank you guys all for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your week too, of course.
Bye.
Should we stop the recording?